Một like sắp phơi được ba.
To have her in my life and as a friend.
Just to know that she was even in the process of changing her life around makes me happy.
Right didn't mean no harm to nobody.
Late on the night of the 26th of April, 2025, the intersection of Forest Parkway and Frontage Road in Georgia suddenly became the scene of an unimaginable incident. Under the dim yellow glow of the streetlights, a security camera captured footage of a young woman stepping out of a car, still carrying the same radiant, carefree energy she had always been known for. She stepped in front of the black SUV, dancing playfully the way she often did when the party energy reached its peak. But just seconds later, in a cold and hopeless moment, the vehicle suddenly surged forward. No screeching brakes, no warning. And in the blink of an eye, the young woman lay motionless on the pavement. Not because of a traffic accident, not at the hands of a stranger, but because of someone she called a friend, someone who had ridden with her that very night. The victim was Amaya Cunningham, 25 years old, a young woman full of life, the eldest of 7 siblings, known and loved by those around her for her radiant smile and her boundless affection for music, animals, and family. It was supposed to be a joyful night, her younger sister's prom, her beloved aunt's birthday, and a moment of excitement as Amaya prepared to begin a new chapter of her life, with dreams of pursuing a career in beauty. No one in her family could have imagined that just hours after the laughter and celebration, they would receive a call that shattered everything. No one expected that the SUV wouldn't just take a life, it would rip apart the trust, the friendship, and the faith that Amaya had so carefully held onto. This case is heartbreaking not only because of the severity of the act, but because the betrayal came from those who seemed closest. How could something that appeared so harmless end in tragedy? How does friendship turn into something fatally dangerous? And what, on that night, pushed someone to hit the gas, run over a person they once called a friend, and then leave the scene as if they'd never known her at all? This is the story of Amaya Cunningham, a story not only haunting, but one that leaves behind a sting of questions with no easy answers. If you're drawn to real cases, to the darker corners of the human mind, and to the painful lessons buried beneath everyday smiles, then stay with me as we unravel the truth, piece by piece. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let me know where you're watching from as we continue exploring these chilling, tragic stories together. Amaya Cunningham was born on the 26th of April, 2000, in the state of Georgia, USA. As the eldest daughter in a large family, she took on the role of a real big sister from a young age, not only looking after her younger siblings, but also serving as a pillar of emotional support for her mother. She was described as someone born with an infectious energy, laughing loudly, talking non-stop, dancing whenever music played, and making friends with just about anyone. In her family, she was the one who brought joy. In her community, she was the spark that brought people together. And in the eyes of her friends, Amaya was always the heart of every gathering. Amaya wasn't just vibrant in real life, she was equally active on social media. She often shared short videos of herself dancing, along with everyday moments spent with family and friends. While she wasn't a mainstream celebrity, Amaya gradually became a kind of local icon within her community, a young woman who dared to live authentically, who embraced joy, and who radiated positive energy wherever she went. Those who followed her personal accounts were familiar with her spontaneous dance clips, cozy gatherings with loved ones, and the uplifting words she often shared, words that felt like healing. However, Amaya's life wasn't always smooth sailing. She had gone through many periods of financial hardship, often juggling multiple part-time jobs to help her mother raise her younger siblings. But no matter how exhausted she was, Amaya never let life defeat her. In the weeks leading up to the incident, she had been making plans to enroll in beauty school, a turning point she had described in a recent post as a new chapter in my life. Within Amaya's circle of friends was a woman named Alexandria Larkin, 29 years old, who would later become the prime suspect in her case. The two had known each other for years. In the beginning, they were as close as sisters. They had traveled together, posed for countless photos, and often referred to each other as besties. Alexandria had a noticeably different personality, more reserved, less expressive with her emotions. But Amaya trusted her. She had defended Alexandria more than once during arguments with others. Aside from Alexandria, the group also included Mickey and Deja, two girls from the same neighborhood who had gone to middle school with Amaya. They weren't especially close, but they kept in touch and occasionally went out together. That group, Amaya, Alexandria, Mickey, and Deja, became familiar names in social media stories, where every moment was captured, from laughter to drunken nights, from everyday scenes to wild evenings out in Atlanta's clubs. To outsiders, they looked like a close-knit group, colorful, lively, and bonded by years of friendship. But no one could have imagined that within that very group, the same faces once laughing together on camera, there was someone willing to hit the gas and drive straight into a human life. And even more unthinkable, it all began with a quiet fracture that no one noticed in time. Relationships rarely fall apart overnight. They often erode slowly, like a small crack waiting for the right moment to split wide open. The friendship between Amaya and Alexandria was no different. There were no loud arguments, no public fights, but those who paid close attention had begun to notice the growing distance between them over time. One of the most telling signs emerged during the pre-game, the night of the 26th of April, 2025. That evening, Amaya, Alexandria, Mickey, and Deja gathered at a friend's house drinking, listening to music, and getting in the mood for a night out. At first, everything seemed light-hearted. But according to another friend, the atmosphere between Amaya and Alexandria quickly shifted. There was no obvious argument, no raised voices, but the looks, the body language, and the heavy silence between them made the entire group feel uneasy. Shortly after, Amaya quietly pulled out her phone and texted another friend in the group, someone who was riding in the red truck behind them. In the message, she wrote that the vibe in this car feels off, and said she wished she had chosen to ride with him instead of staying with Alexandria, Mickey, and Deja. It was only a brief message, but it revealed Amaya's sharp intuition that she was feeling uneasy, that something wasn't right within her own circle of friends. Alongside that sense of unease was another detail few had noticed, a shift in Alexandria's behavior. She had become quieter, more difficult to read. In recent gatherings, Alexandria often avoided interacting with Amaya, sometimes even leaving early without offering any explanation. A few of Amaya's close friends later revealed that Alexandria had shown signs of resentment when Amaya received more attention, especially on social media, where Amaya had a sizable following and was often praised for her looks and lifestyle. No one can say for certain that jealousy was the cause, but clearly, something had been simmering between the two. Something that, had it been taken seriously, might have stopped that fateful night from ever happening. But as is so often the case, the smallest warning signs are the ones most easily ignored until they turn into catastrophe. After a tense pre-game filled with unspoken tension, the group split into 3 cars to head to King of Diamonds, a popular nightclub among Atlanta's youth. The red truck carried 2 of the guys. Alexandria was behind the wheel of the black SUV, and Amaya, along with Mickey and Deja, rode in the silver car, trailing just behind Alexandria. On the surface, everything still seemed relatively normal, but beneath that calm exterior, things had already begun to drift off course. Alexandria said little, her focus fixed on the road. Mickey and Deja whispered quietly to each other in the back seat. Sitting in the front, Amaya buckled her seatbelt, then silently pulled out her phone and sent a message. The message was sent to T, one of the 2 guys riding in the red truck behind them. In it, Amaya wrote bluntly, "I don't feel comfortable. The vibe is weird. I should have ridden with you." It wasn't just a complaint. It felt like a quiet warning, a whisper from within, the inner voice of a 5-year-old woman sensing that something was off, something was building in the darkness of that night. Meanwhile, up front, Alexandria seemed increasingly unable to keep her emotions in check. Some sources later suggested that she and Amaya shared a long history of unresolved tension. A few people in the group revealed that Alexandria had often felt overshadowed by Amaya, especially at parties or in social media videos. No one ever confirmed a serious conflict outright, but it's often the things left unsaid that turn out to be the most dangerous. On social media, there were no posts or stories from Amaya right before she left that night, a rare silence for someone who usually shared everything. Some friends later noted that she seemed quieter than usual, not joking, not dancing as much as she normally would. Along the road leading to the Forest Parkway intersection, the three cars continued moving, headlights slicing through the night. But inside one of them, a slow-burning jealousy had likely been smoldering for a long time, just waiting for the right moment to ignite into an irreversible act. The fateful moment unfolded at 11:44 p.m. on the 26th of April, 2025. The three cars were nearing their destination when the black SUV driven by Alexandria and the silver car carrying Amaya, Mickey, and Deja came to a stop at the intersection of Forest Parkway and Frontage Road. At first, the atmosphere still seemed light, almost carefree. The streetlights cast a pale glow over the quiet road. No honking, no music, just the soft sound of tires slowing to a stop along the curb. In what seemed like an ordinary moment, Amaya opened the car door and stepped out. Not out of fear, not out of anger, but simply because she was being herself, lively, full of life, and known for her playful habit of dancing in front of her friends' cars during nights out. She walked up to the front of the black SUV where Alexandria sat behind the wheel and began twerking a familiar dance she often posted on TikTok. It was something that had brought her thousands of likes, laughter from friends, and that feeling of living fully in the moment.
Hít một like sắp phơi được ba.
The traffic department's surveillance camera, quietly recording like it did every night, captured the entire moment. In the footage, Amaya stood directly in front of the SUV, her back to the windshield, arms raised, completely unaware that a storm was building behind the glass. No one knows what was going through Alexandria's mind in that instant. No one heard a word from her, but in a split second, the SUV suddenly accelerated. No warning, no sign of slowing down. The vehicle lunged forward, striking Amaya and throwing her to the pavement, dragging her several feet before continuing to roll away from the scene, leaving the two 5-year-olds' motionless body lying cold at the intersection. No one in the car stopped. No one got out. No one called for help in that moment. A witness in the area saw the final moments of the incident and immediately called 911. When responders from the Forest Park Police Department arrived on scene, Amaya was still breathing barely. They administered first aid and rushed her to Grady Memorial Hospital, where doctors did everything they could to save her. But the injuries were too severe. Amaya Cunningham was pronounced dead shortly after, right there in the hospital, with her youth and dreams left unfinished. But what shocked the community even more than the death of a vibrant young woman was how the case was initially handled. In the first police report, Amaya was listed as a pedestrian struck by a vehicle, as if she had simply been crossing the street and happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was no mention of a suspect, no indication of conflict, no suggestion that this was anything more than an unfortunate accident. It wasn't until the intersection footage began circulating on social media that the truth started to come to light. In that video taken from a traffic camera, Amaya could be clearly seen standing in the middle of the road, dancing joyfully. And then, the black SUV, rather than stopping, was seen accelerating, pulling her beneath its wheels. No slip, no mistake, no sign of swerving to avoid her. It was a direct, deliberate act, one that could never be mistaken for an accident. It was no longer a moment of youthful playfulness or a harmless joke. It was the cold, brutal line between life and betrayal. A moment so dark that, when you look back, you can no longer tell the difference between a friend and a threat. And for Amaya, it was the final moment of her life ended beneath the wheels, in silence, with a press of the gas pedal no one could ever explain. Moments after receiving the 911 call from a witness at the Forest Parkway intersection, Forest Park police arrived quickly on the scene. By then, Amaya was unconscious, her body severely injured. Emergency responders worked urgently to revive her and transported her to Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. But hope faded fast. Amaya succumbed to her injuries just a few hours later. However, what stunned both the family and the community wasn't just the loss, it was how the case was initially handled by police. In the first report, authorities classified the incident as a traffic accident involving an unidentified pedestrian. No one mentioned that Amaya had been with the group, no one admitted to knowing her, and no one was detained. Even Mickey and Deja, the two friends who had been in the car with Amaya, told police that they didn't know the victim, claiming she was just a stranger who had been hit while crossing the road. That statement would later be seen as a second blow, not one that drew blood, but one far sharper than any set of wheels ever could.
There's a car behind them that turns with them. You see Maya's body like this. They keep going. There's a second car that goes and they stopped. Maya died last night.
While her family was drowning in grief at the hospital, Amaya's so-called friends, the same ones who once laughed and posed for photos with her, chose to wash their hands of the truth and turn away, as if she had never existed in their lives at all. In the early days following the incident, local media offered little clarity. There was no official statement from the police, no name for the victim, no mention of a suspect, only a vague description of a woman struck by a vehicle and no signs of foul play. But then, social media erupted. One of Amaya's close friends came forward, sharing her personal information and posting the clip pulled from the traffic camera. The video was less than 10 seconds long, but it said everything. Amaya stood in front of the SUV, and the vehicle accelerated. No attempt to swerve, no brakes, and then it fled. The video spread like wildfire. Hashtags like #Justice for Amaya, #Say Her Name, and #Amaya Deserved Better quickly became trending topics across multiple platforms. Celebrities, social justice advocates, and even strangers who had never known Amaya began speaking out, demanding the investigation be reopened. While still deep in mourning, Amaya's family rose to organize a memorial at Cliftondale Park in South Fulton. Attendees wore green, Amaya's favorite color, lit candles, released balloons, and delivered heartfelt farewells. At the same time, Amaya's mother launched a GoFundMe campaign to help cover legal expenses and funeral costs.
Maya's death will not be in vain. Our family will see to it that Maya gets the justice that she deserves.
So happy to have her in my life and as a friend.
Just to know that she was even in the process of changing her life around makes me happy.
Maya didn't mean no harm to nobody.
We gonna live for Maya.
The initial silence from law enforcement began to crack under the weight of public pressure, and from there, the door to the truth slowly creaked open, transforming the case from an unexplained accident into a full-scale criminal investigation, with one suspect gradually coming into focus: Alexandria Larkin. Under intense pressure from social media and the press, the Forest Park Police Department was forced to reopen the case. The traffic camera footage had now become the centerpiece of the investigation, undeniable, unchallengeable. In that clip, the driver of the black SUV had a clear, unobstructed view. Amaya didn't suddenly run out, she had been standing there all along. And when the wheels moved, they didn't just crush a human body, they exposed a deliberate act. The investigation quickly identified the driver, Alexandria Larkin, 29 years old, a woman who had appeared in Amaya's social media posts time and time again as a close friend. What stunned investigators even more was that Alexandria never stopped the vehicle, never called the police, and only returned to the scene 2 hours later, accompanied by her husband, calm and composed, as if nothing had happened. Initially, internal reports remained hesitant, with no decision made to press charges. But under mounting pressure from the public, especially a wave of outrage on social media, an arrest warrant for Alexandria was finally issued on May 16, 2025, nearly 3 weeks after Amaya's death. Alexandria now faces serious charges, including first-degree homicide by vehicle, leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. At her first hearing at the Clayton County Court, Alexandria appeared in an inmate jumpsuit, her expression cold and unreadable. Her defense attorney argued that she was a mother to a young child and should be granted bail to care for her family. However, the judge denied the request, citing the gravity of her actions and the clear risk she posed to the community. During the investigation, detectives uncovered that Alexandria had a history of psychological instability and had previously been accused of aggressive behavior in an undisclosed incident. This only deepened suspicions that the case wasn't just a sudden accident, but possibly the result of a long-brewing chain of jealousy and unresolved resentment. Not only that, but the two friends who were with Amaya, Mickey and Deja, also came under investigation for providing false statements to the police. They initially claimed they didn't know Amaya, a statement that directly contradicted dozens of shared posts and photos on social media. While no criminal charges have been filed against them yet, the public continues to ask, did they know what was about to happen? And was their silence a part of the guilt? As of now, Alexandria Larkin remains in custody at the Clayton County Jail, awaiting her official trial. The case has been classified as high profile in the area, and Amaya's family, along with a community demanding justice, continues to closely monitor every development. For them, this is not just a legal battle, but a fight to reclaim dignity, truth, and a voice for a young woman who had been dismissed too many times, even in her final moments. The death of Amaya Cunningham was not just a personal loss, it was a wound that rippled through an entire community, a jarring wake-up call that shattered the illusion of seemingly harmless friendships. She had been the fire of her family, the soul of every party, the protective older sister, a friend to many, and it was that same trust in friendship that ultimately cost her life. Amaya's family is left to face a brutal reality, the loss of a daughter, a sister, and a beloved friend, not at the hands of a stranger or some random act, but by someone she once trusted most. It's a kind of loss that refuses to settle, that keeps echoing the question, why, with no answer that ever feels enough. For those left behind, the pain isn't only in Amaya's absence, it's in the silence, the indifference, and the betrayal of the very people who once held her hand during the brightest days. The message from this case is clearer than ever. Control is not love, jealousy is not proof of affection, and social media is not a safe place to challenge minds that are slowly veering off course. Don't ignore your intuition. When you feel unsafe, don't try to play along just to keep the peace. Instinct is the final gift of survival, and tragically, sometimes it only speaks loudest when it's already too late. Amaya didn't live to tell her story, but her story is being told relentlessly as a warning, as an alarm bell, as a call for all of us to listen more closely, to look more deeply, and to love each other with safety, not control. Stay alert enough to realize, not everyone standing beside you is truly on your side. And sometimes, the smile you trust the most is the last thing you ever see.